Hello. Just a quick word before we start this podcast. Just a little trigger warning. Obviously, there is themes of death and some graphic details of dying and seeing loved ones. So if that is not for you, please join us on the next one. Okay. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to Proper Curious, the podcast for down to earth creatives. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Liana, and we're two sisters exploring the world through a curious lens in a quest to live more creatively.
So if you feel like that's you, grab a brew and join us.
Hello and welcome back to Proper Curious, episode 8 now. We are really on a roll with this, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
So we've got a really interesting episode for you, I think. But just to explain briefly what Proper Curious is all about for those who may be new-ish to the episodes. So we just like to explore lots of themes and topics and things that we're just generally curious about. The episodes have gone on quite a tangent over the last 8.
I'm quite obsessed by the tangent now, actually.
Are you a bit obsessed?
I think it's great.
So the idea is that we just explore a topic, really get curious about it, and then see how that inspires us creatively and share that with you on socials and on our website.
That is www.propercurious.com.
Propercurious.com. That could be a little jingle. So, moving on. So, the last episode was... What was the last episode? Oh, yeah. A Need for Speed. It was so memorable for me.
We went to Durham and saw Bede. Well, we didn't see him, but we saw his grave.
That would have been amazing if we'd seen, like, Ghost Bede.
Yeah, well, it would have been scary.
Well,
but I'd like to see his hair.
Oh. Okay. His bald head.
Just because I'm, curious how that worked out for him. Yeah, so what have you been up to since the last episode, creatively?
Absolutely nothing.
Oh.
Just nothing.
So the last time that we had a catch-up, you'd had a creative burst of songwriting energy.
Yes, I had.
And you'd done, like, loads, actually.
Yeah, I'd done loads. And, like, I was just kind of reeling in that. But I think, like, life got very, very busy.
Yeah.
And work got very busy. And although I really enjoyed, like, our trip to Durham and, like, I enjoyed, like, learning about the monks and the history around that, it didn't inspire any creativity necessarily linked to that. I was, like, thinking about creating, like, a mini bead, like, little actual form of bead in clay. And I probably will still do that. But I just didn't.
I have got the clay out to do that, but I haven't done that either.
I haven't done it. So, and then, yeah, I've kind of just been thinking about using my Dremel more than anything else, actually, and trying to find some a rock to put some symbols onto. So I've been thinking more about that really, rather than anything monkish. What about you? Because mine's...
Well, first of all, me and Mum had a day trip to Ambleside, and there was a good bookshop there, Fred's Bookshop in Ambleside.
Yeah.
Very good. And I bought this book called Hidden Hands, The Lives and Manuscripts of Their Makers by Mary Wellesley, after we'd been talking about the marginalia. And that is fascinating. I'm only a quarter of a way in, despite the fact that I've carried it around everywhere. But I will finish that. And I also then wrote a little poem about the monk that was praying in the water, the Dryathelm guy. And I'm not quite happy with that poem. I wrote it quickly and I do like it, but I think it needs some perfecting, so I don't really want to read it out. But it did inspire me, the like mindset of the monks and how they were like, I don't know, the punishment, guilt aspect of their behaviours was something that made me think. And then today, actually, I tried drawing an illuminated manuscript. I just found like a John O'Donoghue quote that I really loved, and I thought I'd like that in a little frame in the kitchen, you know? And so I started drawing. Now, I'm really impressed with my border around it, actually, but drawing the script, that in the letter, forming the letters is painful.
Yeah.
Like, I had to do it all in pencil, and now I've got to go over it in ink. And it is like, one thing I learned about myself was I really don't like precision drawing and
Yeah.
like copying stuff. I really don't like that. I don't enjoy it. I've like multiple times tried to do calligraphy and I felt the same. That sort of like
I guess it's
as
formulaic,
well,
isn't it,
I've
with
thought
that?
about like doing the Celtic knotwork drawings. I love it. I would love to be able to do that on stone, but it's so precise. I find it really, really dull doing it myself. I
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
love the end product,
yeah.
but I don't find it relaxing. I just find it really boring
Yeah.
because like you're not engaged. You're like just like following a mathematical
Well, it's like you have
pattern.
to draw grids quite a lot of the time, don't you? Or like lines and
Oh,
guidelines to support you to get it
oh, it's
actually
too
like
much.
working.
Perfect. I mean, there's different ways you can use it, obviously. Like, I just think it's a certain type of person, isn't it? A very structured, organized,
Probably
ordered
me.
person.
I'd probably quite like it.
You probably quite like it. I think I can see entirely how it would be so relaxing because it involves loads of your brain, you know?
Mm.
Anyway, so that was interesting, but also, yeah, it was quite hard. One thing I have been doing was listening to more Gregorian chanting, and I found that really relaxing. And
Yeah,
I've been putting it on
see?
when I'm
Told
reading
you.
because obviously we've been all been trying to, you know, we don't exist in a vacuum, and the world's political Western landscape is not great at all just now,
No.
and trying to get off Instagram pull of the reels. So,
Yes, we've
because
both been
it's
trying to do that, haven't
detrimental.
we?
Although you need to be engaged in the news and events and things so you can take action, I think as it's so overwhelming, isn't it?
Mm.
And so what I've been doing instead is trying to do some creativity with the Gregorian chanting on
Well,
and
yeah. Did you
just
feel that
pace my brain out a
it
bit.
put you in a liminal space?
Well, I think it is. Well, some of them are quite intense, aren't they? They're like quite like haunting-ish. And I was like, oh, that's actually creeping me out. But yeah, the ones that are more stripped back are very relaxing. There's just something very quite like the ones where it's only two, maybe one, two, or three people, a small group of them. It's just really, I don't know. You can almost feel the like sacred spaceness,
Yeah.
which is lovely. So,
Mm.
we picked the topic for this episode, which is Beyond the Veil,
Mm.
based on the link from Dryathelm, who had like a near-death experience, didn't he? And he was forever changed and then
Hmm.
became a monk in Melrose Abbey. We basically just called it Beyond the Veil, and then we've separately gone our ways,
Hmm.
and we have obviously never know what each other's going to say or have looked into, and we just left it open to interpret that phrase, or what's it called, an idiom, idonym, it. Oh my God, do you know what I mean?
Idiotism.
No, two idiots are trying to say idiom,
Idiom.
idiom. That's what it is, isn't it? An idiom, because that's a phrase. So we've interpreted that in whatever way we wish to do so. Um,
Yeah, where did you start, Rach? Because I took this very literally.
oh, well, I also, I think, did. But where I started was looking at where the phrase came from in the first place, because
Oh, that's a good idea.
I just thought, why do we say that?
Yeah, like
What,
what? Whose veil?
like, obviously, like, see, when you're looking it up, there's loads of podcasts called Beyond the Veil.
Yeah. Oh.
Loads of books called Beyond the Veil. Do you know, it's just really common. But apparently, well, it means like an unseen realm, basically, beyond our everyday experience. But people also mean by it like a separation between our physical life and our metaphysical experience, or aspects of our psyche we can't access, like transcendence in meditation, or
Yeah.
a hidden world before, like beyond our understanding.
Hmm.
But it came from the Old Testament biblical texts referring to the tabernacle and the temple in Jerusalem as also. And apparently there was like a physical barrier of a fabric between the most holy place that only the like high priest could go into, and then only
Oh,
once a year when it was like the Day of
right.
Atonement, and he would then go in to that like in the curtain and then intercede for people, and it was like a boundary between the human and the divine. So it
Wow.
was literally
It was a
a veil,
physical space
a
behind
physical
a veil
thing. And then people started using the phrase because it was like
beyond the
beyond the
veil.
veil.
That's very interesting. It'd be interesting to see when it became like widely circulated as a popular phrase.
So
Hmm.
the first thing that occurred to me, actually, which is pretty random, is reincarnation.
Ooh.
I looked up, I think when I was a teenager, I read a book called, I think it was called Many Lives, Many Masters. I can't even remember who that was by. I was fascinated. That book was fascinating. I actually think it was full of things that aren't like provable at all, but just the concepts and the ideas and the experiences people were sharing and just like the way of thinking around consciousness and life was really interesting to me. I think I was about 15 when I was reading that. Yeah, so that's probably where it came from, the link in my head between Beyond the Veil. Because I was thinking, really, what we're thinking of is like, there's obviously the ghost thing, and that was the first thing that occurred to me. Obviously, it's like, how can you know that there's something beyond our physical existence?
Mm.
And then I was thinking, well, obviously, like reincarnation is something that's been massively studied. So there's two guys called Dr. Ian Stevenson and Dr. Jim Tucker, and they both worked at the Division of Perceptual Studies in the University of Virginia. You can actually see a load of this on their website, the University of Virginia Perceptual Studies website. They studied 2,500 cases of children reporting memories of past lives
That's interesting, isn't it?
from a scientific approach.
And that's a big study.
That's a big study from many, 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 many years.
Yeah.
And it's young children, typically between the ages of 2 and 6.
Mm.
Often the parents will get in touch with Jim or Ian because they are really distressed by what their child is saying. They're like, one of the earliest signs will be like bizarre, repetitive play, saying things or doing things that they like repeat in a bizarre,
Like almost something that they shouldn't know or
like I'm going to speak about a little boy who replicates like died in a plane crash,
oh
just
gosh.
bizarre. And 20% of them had congenital or birth defects, and the child was saying that that correlated with their manner of death or an injury related to their death in a previous life, have a longing for their previous family members,
Mm.
and often like speaking about violent deaths or dying young. So some of the cases, I've got 3 here that I'm just going to briefly go over.
Yeah,
But
go. That's
there
so
was
interesting.
there was a little lad, and I've not got them all the mega details. But if you look these up, there's like tons of podcasts or YouTube
Yeah.
videos on these. But one is called James Leninger. Leninger. He had memories of being a World War II pilot and being shot down. So what he was doing was playing with his toy plane age 2 and repeatedly crashing it into the coffee table. The coffee table was like really scratched and marked because he would go, plane crash, plane on fire, little man can't get out. And he would repeatedly say that and crash his plane into the coffee table. And
Okay.
then slowly started to talk about more details, when he could talk more, obviously, than age 2.
So it
But
was like something that stuck with him and he
just
talked
bizarre,
about it.
repetitive play. Yeah.
Mm.
And then he talked more about his memories of his previous name was James Houston. He then
Wow.
also mentioned the name Jack Larson, who was the other guy who was in the plane who died with him. He named the crash site and he knew the name of the plane.
And this was
And
all corroborated as being true.
yeah, it was all corroborated. And the plane is like a Japanese plane or something like that. It was random. And the guy's name was correct. The other guy's name was correct. And there was a documentary on it. And during the documentary making, they didn't have all of the corroborating information. So it was only up to what they corroborated at that point.
Mm.
And then the documentary helped to find more info, which was then corroborated further. So it just leads you to believing that it's true because the dad and the film crew and everybody were working it out and only had the information available at that time, which is then it's been further proved. So it's like not like anybody was making it up for that TV program. Like there was emails between the TV producer and the dad of the kid saying he said this, we've got this info, I can't find that, I don't know if that's true or not, blah blah blah. So like actively working it out. So it's not like it was, if it
I
was
mean,
made up.
it could still be like a total fake, though, couldn't it?
Well, not really, because obviously these psychologists, psychiatrists have investigated it, and then, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the kid,
Mm.
and then they've found the evidence. So that'd be a bit mad. Anyway, there's another child called Ryan Hammonds, and he, I think he was about 5, was saying about being a Hollywood extra and a talent agent in Hollywood.
Wow, specific.
So we started talking about like dancing. Loads, and he can remember when he was dancing, he misses dancing, blah 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 blah. And his mum was like, "What?" And then he went on to talk about he used to work in Hollywood. He used to have a flat and all these details of stuff. Anyway, his mum was like, "What on earth?" Because he was talking about missing his old life so much, and he even talked about like specific vintage. I mean, because this was in the 30s that he was talking about, the 1930s. He was talking about specific like soft drinks, pop, fizzy drinks, now no longer on sale drinks that he used to like.
So when was he born?
What corroborated? He was like, he must be about 30 now or something.
All right, so this was like
20 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. Took a long time for him to be reincarnated.
Well, no, because the guy, I don't know what the difference is, but the guy died at 61.
Right. Okay. Oh, okay.
But interestingly, so his mum got a book out on Hollywood, like old Hollywood.
That would make sense.
And in the book, when they were looking through it with the kid, he pointed himself out and was like, "That's who I was."
That's so weird.
And the weird thing is that the guy in the picture wasn't like named. He was an unknown person in the book. So he wasn't getting the name from the book. He was like, "That's me. That's when I was in this film, blah, 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 blah." And he was an extra in the film. But he then went on to set up his own talent agency.
No way.
And anyway, they finally got the daughters of the guy. And the daughters corroborated that he liked that drink. His death certificate actually said that he died a bit older, but they later found out that the death certificate was incorrect. And he actually did die at age 61, which was what the kid was saying. And he did used to dance, and then basically all the details were corroborated, and it's bizarre.
That's so strange.
But it's just so random. Like, why would you know those specific? It's really niche.
Yeah.
And then there's another
for a young child as well to say it all.
Yeah,
it makes it more believable, doesn't it? Because you're like, well, where would they have got that information from? And especially because they're still building their understanding of the actual
and it's not like
world they're living in now.
It's not like the mum had that. Like, she went and got a book out of the library because the kid was saying that. It wasn't like they were talking about Hollywood all the time. Like, she didn't have anything. Like, she went to find out what on earth are you talking about. Yeah, it's just bizarre, isn't it? And then there's another case of a little boy who was about 5 called Cameron Macaulay. He's from Glasgow. This was about 20 years ago. And you can actually see the full documentary on YouTube that called The Boy Who Lived Before. And he reported having grown up on Barra, which is a small island off the Hebrides. I've actually been there, and it's very remote. It's like you wouldn't know about it. Do you know what I mean? As a kid, I barely knew about it. It's like the end of the Hebridean Way, and it's the smallest island of the Outer Hebrides. So he reported that he knew that the planes landed on the sea, which they do.
Yeah.
That's like the main runway is the beach. That he lived in a white house with a black and white dog. He named his father, this Shane Robertson, and kept saying he misses his Barra mum, and saying he died in a car accident. And he was able to just identify all the details of the house, what the house looked like, the setup of the house, where it was, the landscape. And he was able to navigate around the landscape. So it turned out that Robertsons did live in this house, and the next door neighbours had a black and white sheepdog that he used to play with.
No way.
But what was not corroborated was the dad's first name. It wasn't Shane, but it was James, which sounds James, sounds similar, doesn't it?
James. Yeah, similar sounds.
Also the family, because they actually managed to meet the girl who'd grown up in that house, who was old now, would have been effectively his sister if he was reincarnated. Said no one in the family had died in a car crash, but that doesn't mean, I don't know. It's bizarre, isn't it? But you can see him on the video walking around in this house. in Barra. There's a clip of him sitting in front of the fire. The roaring fire is on. He's sat there with Jim Tucker, Dr. Jim Tucker, who's doing the research, and his mum. And he's like looking so contemplative in his facial expression. And he's like got a real sadness to him. Like he's genuinely seeing this house and it's changed. And he's like, it's just so
Bizarre.
such a real reaction, you know?
Yeah.
And he like,
I'll have to watch
he's
that.
like, oh, does it look a bit different now? And he like nods with his like, you know, when your chin's wobbling a bit, he nods. And then the mum's like, do you miss your Barra mum? And he's like, yeah. And he just like leans in and cries into her. Like,
Oh,
it's really,
I'll have to watch
really
that.
bizarre. Really bizarre.
That is bizarre.
The Boy Who Lived Before. So after I'd thought about that, I then, obviously, Dr. Tucker and Dr. Stevenson work at the Virginia Institute of Perceptual, whatever it was, Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia. And so part of their studies looked at then near-death experiences, blah, blah, blah. And it was about that study. Dr. Bruce Grayson, did you look him up as well?
No, there's quite a few different studies that have happened actually.
So he works in the same perceptual unit at the University of Virginia.
Yeah.
And for 50 years, he's studied near-death experiences.
Wow.
Now, I will say that I listened to various episodes of him on different podcasts. And Mayam Bialik's Breakdown podcast from the 6th of June 2025, he is doing an episode there, which is absolutely great. And I would full on recommend. But I've used a load of different sources, like online, different podcasts and stuff to go into this. But this Dr. Bruce Grayson, he originally qualified as an actual like medical doctor. His interest was piqued because he was working in the ER one night as a newly qualified doctor. Now, some of this is random, but it does link in. So before seeing a patient, when he got the bleep, he was in the cafeteria having his dinner and he got some sauce on his tie. And he was like, oh no, this looks really unprofessional. Like, what am I going to do? He couldn't get it fully off. I think it was like spag and pole sauce. And so he like tried to do his best wiping it off his tie. And then he put on a white coat over it to try and hide it. So the nurses wouldn't be like, what on earth? Anyway, he had to go to the A&E and this girl had overdosed and had been admitted and was unconscious. And he was talking to the flatmate of the girl. Now, he wasn't in the same room as the girl. He was down the corridor sitting in some seats outside. And then he talked to the nurses, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, went home. Next day, came in. The girl had come round. And the girl was saying, he was like, I'm Dr. Grayson, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, yeah, I know. And he was like, what? Yep, you've not met me before. You were out cold last night, you know. And she was like, no, I was there when you were speaking to my flatmate, gave details of the conversation, said about his tie, and that he put the white coat on, and that he took it off again. But
And she wouldn't have been physically able to see that because she was in a different place.
She was in a different room,
Yeah,
unconscious.
yeah,
She
yeah.
wasn't there. How would
So
you know the
that was
details
an
of the
out of
conversation?
body experience, then, wasn't it?
Yeah, near-death experience / out-of-body experience. But he wasn't working in this field at that time, and so he said he just doesn't even like know many of the details because he was just like, okay,
Yeah, just like, all right,
and then
that's a
like,
bit strange.
okay, and he was thinking more in that he was like previously very scientifically minded, very materialist existence, you know, like if it can't be quantified, it's not true. Do you know what I mean? But
so
that
interesting.
obviously did pique his interest. And anyway, he then did like 50 years of studies into near-death experiences. And what fascinated me was obviously there's like millions of actual cases of near-death experiences. But what I wanted to see was like the main findings of the studies. Like, what do people feel like after they've had the near-death experiences?
Yeah.
Like, how does it change them? And one of the main things he was talking about was like the loss of fear of death, strengthened belief in life after death, funnily enough, feeling favoured by a divine being, new sense of purpose or like a mission, a heightened self-esteem, increased compassion and love for others, and then lessened concern for like material gain, or like they're not bothered about recognition or status or anything like that anymore. Like they go off on a more of a spiritual path and are more motivated to like help others.
To like
and
greater
have-
empathy.
Yeah, an increased ability to express their feelings and an increased appreciation of nature. I was just like, that is mind blowing. And one thing he said at the end of that Mayim Bialik episode, which actually made me feel like tearing up. I am going to read this because word for word, because I thought it was beautiful. So, she said, like, how has this made you feel? Like, how has this changed you as a person? Remember, he was previously like very like scientific guy, and he needed to know the answers. And he said that he used to feel really uncomfortable if he didn't have the answer. But now he said, I don't need to have all the answers, and now I'm okay with that. There are things that our language and our brains cannot understand, and that's okay with me. I also believe, not 100% believe, but based on what near-death experience has told me, that the universe is basically a friendly place, and we don't need to be in control and have all the answers in order to be safe here. Now, there's certainly a lot of bad things going on in the world, and we're going to suffer a lot here, but that doesn't mean that ultimately there isn't more good, and that we'll end up in a good place eventually. I have that faith now.
Oh, that is really
I was just like,
comforting,
do you know what?
isn't it?
It is comforting because he's done so many
Much,
studies.
yeah, and so really.
And when you listen to him, he's so like matter of fact and he's so intelligent. Yeah, it actually made me feel like personally really relieved, which I didn't expect.
No, that's
And I was like,
interesting.
oh, I just felt something in me like, oh, thank God. I think what's so beautiful about these near-death experiences is that everyone has this like interlinked feeling of all being one, and that there's a goodness and an absolute profound sense of love and beautifulness. Yeah, and so really like one of the other like amazing bits of his research, because I was thinking about consciousness then, was basically what all boils down to, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like I was thinking really about consciousness not being attached to the body or
Yes.
the brain.
Yep.
And he said when he started obviously working 50 years ago that they only had basic equipment, but now they've got like functional MRIs and near infrared spectroscopy. Oh my God. Spectroscopy. Oh my God.
What?
And well, I'm not going to say that again. More sophisticated algorithms for analyzing EEGs and yeah, basically loads of stuff that we didn't usually used to have. So they've done loads of tests on neurophysiology of psychedelic drug use, because obviously you can control that and you can assess it. And obviously taking psychedelics like psilocybin, whatever, hallucinogens, we used to think obviously that they stimulated hallucinations, but actually now that they've used all the equipment on people's brains while they're taking them and having these experiences, they actually do the opposite of that, and they dampen down the brain activity, so there's less connection between different parts of the brain. It's like the brain needs to get, what he said was, the brain needs to get out of the way in order for you to have those experiences.
That's interesting.
Isn't that weird? Because obviously in a near-death experience, the brain function is shutting down. There was another guy that studied people with cardiac arrest, and like obviously the brain is like stopped.
Yeah.
Clinically you are dead. But obviously that is allowing the same brain function that we're seeing with psychedelic use.
Yeah.
And it's just funny, isn't it? Because like, see, I was thinking about Amazon tribes that use like ayahuasca brews as a psychedelic drug, and they have that as part of their religious practice, and they introduce that when you're quite young, I think like age 12, 15, as part of your like rite of passage, because they believe that it's a valuable experience. They only give them small amounts of the drug at that age, but in giving you a concept of something other, and that there's like a greater power and greater wisdom, and it like sets that basically that same behavioral pattern of being less materialistic, more spiritual, greater empathy, blah, 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 blah. And it instills some of the same qualities that we see in people after near-death experiences. Isn't that fascinating?
That is interesting.
So his work, basically, the long and short of it is that Dr. Grayson's work suggests that dying may be a transition in consciousness rather than an absolute end.
That's a bit exciting, isn't it?
That is really exciting. I mean, I think we all kind of like know it in ourselves, but it's just really exciting to see so much.
Almost scientific evidence. Well, it is scientific evidence.
It is scientific evidence.
It is scientific because there's been so many different studies on it, and big studies as well. But yeah, the one I did come across was Dr. Jeffrey Long, who wrote a paper on near-death experiences, so evidence for their reality and the validity of them. And
Yeah.
he was very exact with the way that he approached this. You know, I read the whole
Scientific.
paper actually, with the
wow.
methodology that he used was kind of like you had to have meet 16 different criteria to be classed as having
Yes.
a near-death experience.
Yeah.
And
That's what Dr. Grayson created, the 16 criteria.
so he
Yeah.
used that, and he surveyed 1,122 people who had near-death experiences, and these were people who were this is direct quotes, so physically compromised that they are typically unconscious, comatose, or clinically dead. And he just think going back to your point about the brain activity, actually, he said that prior studies had found that the 10 to 20 seconds following cardiac arrest, for example, let me get this word. This is a really long word. Electroencephalogram
Yep.
measurements generally found no significant measurable brain cortical electrical activity. So therefore, a prolonged, detailed, lucid experience following that shouldn't be possible in terms of what we understand of the brain function. Which then I found actually contrasting research on, which was researchers at the University of Michigan. This is in 2024, so very recently, I guess. They published their groundbreaking findings with using brain recordings from a small study though, this is the only thing, 4 dying patients. They were all on life support and their brain activity was being recorded by this EEG. And they were saying that 2 patients exhibited a surge of brain activity shortly after their relatives had decided to switch off their life support machines. But tragically they died, so they couldn't check what experience they might
But they'll
have.
know what areas of the brain.
So that was interesting because I thought, there's one study saying this and then there's the other study saying that. But yeah, I just thought it's really interesting, isn't it, that this Dr. Jeffrey Long basically was kind of talking about the different things that these people were experiencing. And he talks a little bit about the shared experience of it all. Of these near-death experiences, there were 8-ish common sort of themes running through them. So one of them, like you mentioned, was the out-of-body experience, which is part of that near-death experience. And there have been separate studies specifically on out-of-body experiences that show, like you said, that people can describe in immaculate detail what is happening to them or what the doctors are saying or doing in the room. So I found that really interesting because it's that again, it's that separating that consciousness from the body, almost actually going
it's
out
actually
of the body. So that was one of the
and
things.
it's verifiable. That's what's interesting.
Because people are actually.
It's under a controlled investigation situation where they're actually recording it. Yeah.
So the other common things were visions of lights, tunnels, this feeling of traveling towards something. Again, feelings of happiness and peace and calm and immense love and comfort. Seeing deceased loved ones. Again, in the room with them or somewhere in this other dimension. Also, these were things that could happen under general anesthesia as well, so that was another condition that they could happen in. The other thing was the life or parts of your life flashing before your eyes, so that common phrase,
like the life review or whatever.
The life review, meeting a boundary or a limit that they are really aware of crossing, that if they cross this boundary or limit there is no return. But if they don't cross it, they know that
they could come back
and
still.
just having that absolute really
awareness,
hyper awareness of that, and that most of these near-death experiences are generally positive, but there have been some recorded that have been reported to be frightening, which I thought was interesting. It's just incredible. So that was the first kind of big study I kind of read about, and I really read that full. I'll link it on the website, but
wow,
that was really, really interesting actually, just to the extent of how meticulous he was in that study. And then I was thinking about, he raises within that other studies that have been done globally on near-death experiences, because we're thinking about that, well, how much is a near-death experience influenced by current culture or beliefs or anything like that? And it basically concluded that they are very similar, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what your belief system. And then the really interesting point was the near-death experiences in children.
Yeah. Oh,
I found that fascinating because when you were talking about the reincarnation and the very young children, that really made me think. Because you said, what age bracket did you say that they were? It was
between
common.
2 and 6.
Yeah, so similar ages of these children experiencing these
Near-death experiences.
really significant and complex near-death experiences. So the ones who could speak of them, again, were saying the same things that adults were experiencing, but also even pre-linguistic children later on, because it was such a significant memory for them, have later on described their experiences, like even just like a couple of years when they're verbal, when they're able to speak. And this was Dr. Sherry Sutherland. She reviewed 30 years of scholarly literature regarding near-death experiences of children.
Kids.
And it just was clear that basically they're just very the same, no matter your age or where you are or what your belief systems are. So again, it links into that idea of like this shared consciousness that you're tapping into. So then I thought, when you were talking, I was just thinking, well, is that what reincarnation is then? Is that almost almost like maybe it's not the person
like a
that's
tape.
come back. It's like they've transferred their
like a lingering
consciousness and their memories to another physical
being.
vessel.
Yeah, that's what I think. There's some kind of like residue.
Yeah, so and it links to so much, doesn't it, actually, when you think, people's experience of ghosts, or
Yep.
you start to go off on all the other tangents that are just like, well, is this linked to it? Is this linked to it? It makes me think, though, like, why do some people have it and some others don't?
Well, I just think,
Do certain conditions have to be met for it to happen? Or
and maybe they just can't recall it.
yeah, maybe.
Because even when I was looking at the past life recall thing for kids, like some of the details are vague, or as they grow up, they start to forget bits. It's like they've just like had too much other experience that replaces that out. So there's a lot of things about our brain being a filter of information, or a filter. Basically, our brain is limiting us because we're in this body at present. Our consciousness is forced to have a filter.
Yeah.
In order for us to function. Yeah, it's just fascinating, isn't it?
It is fascinating. There was another scholar called Dr. Gregory Shushan, who has collected accounts of near-death experiences through time and across different cultures.
Yes.
Came across this when I was thinking about just globally.
Yeah,
So
like
he's found like numerous examples of recorded near-death experiences from the 7th century BC in China to 19th century Ghana, and again share all the similar themes. And it made me kind of think, oh, I wonder if there's going to be like, if there's any like historical depictions of like a near-death experience sort of elements in art or anything. And I found this guy's got a really cool name, Hieronymus Bosch.
Hieronymus Bosch, yeah.
So he's a 16th century painter, and his was called The Ascent of the Blessed. It's widely considered as a visual portrayal of a near-death experience. However, I do think there's like a religious element to this, because it clearly looks like angels lifting someone up. But again, there is a tunnel painted in that with light at the end and people travelling towards it. And there's someone stood at the end of that tunnel. And I just think that's so
And did he have
interesting.
near-death experience?
I didn't read more into that. I ran out of time.
Okay.
Don't know.
Don't know.
I didn't look too much more into that because I was so then took by this idea of just like people painting like near-death experiences and how they translate that then when they come back from it.
There's obviously loads of spiritualist painters, Hilma af Klint, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's just fascinating. But that's a whole even different realm of like them using extrasensory perception, really, isn't it? To create art or to predict stuff or whatever. Anyway,
So then I was thinking about near-death experiences and art. So I kind of started to research people that had come back from near-death experiences with this desire to paint it or maybe create music from it. And I
Ooh.
came across this guy called Dr. Tony Sikoria. So in 1994, he's an orthopedic surgeon who
Mm-hmm.
was struck by lightning, and basically had an out of body experience. So there's that element. He saw himself lying on the ground. He saw his mum running down the steps, like
Oh
screaming, coming up to
no.
him. He then felt himself float up the stairs and outside of the building. He saw like this bluish white light. But then he says he was overcome by this feeling of just absolute love and warmth and peace. And he remembers thinking to himself, so this is what it's like to be on the other side.
Ah,
And he really liked it, like so much that
yeah. Often people are thinking,
he
oh,
was like,
should I go
I
back?
just want to stay here. Um,
Yeah. Hmm.
but then suddenly he started to feel that
The
like
pull.
he was back, and there was a woman working on him doing CPR, and
Oh, right.
he
Okay.
remembers thinking, I want to tell her to stop because it was like I'm really in pain and it was really nice on the other side, so I want to go back there, please. Like he had a real desire to just
Right.
like go back to where it was. But then like he kind of was just fully revived,
Yeah.
and he was fine. Apart from like a couple of weeks after he was said he was struggling with some memory issues, which I thought was interesting because that was mentioned in some of the studies that sometimes these experiences
Interesting.
then were kind of had sort of side effects. I
Yeah.
guess that's if you're having a massive like body trauma, then that's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then after the sort of side effects kind of went away and he started to feel normal again, he suddenly started like a few weeks later had a like massively like significant desire to listen to piano music. And he was like, it was funny because I'd never really been interested. He was a biker, as well as a doctor. And he was like, I was always into like my rock music. I was a rocker. But he had this like unintelligible desire to listen to music. So then he started listening to Chopin, and he was like, he describes himself becoming absolutely like consumed and like obsessively listening to this, and then to the point where he like was like, I need to play it. So then he like taught himself how to play piano in like a really short space of time, and then had like a vision of him like playing this particular song in a theater. And he was like, I need to write this song. So then he started, he was, even when he was trying to play other pieces of classical pieces of music, he then just would start playing this song that was like he'd composed.
A specific song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he basically composed a whole symphony called The Divine Light.
Is it out there?
Inspired by his experience. And that led him to connect with people who have studied this thing called acquired musical savant syndrome and the
Yep.
brain's untapped potential, where people have had these like absolutely mad experiences, near death experiences, or body traumas, and then come back with some sort of like talent that they didn't have before or
Yeah.
creative desires.
Or
And
psychic
it's
abilities.
incredibly, like, extremely rare condition. For example, I couldn't find more information on this, but there was only 32 cases reported by 2015, so it's really rare and not really widely studied. But yeah, following a traumatic brain injury or a stroke.
Yeah. So I was wondering if that's more physiologically about your like
Yeah.
your neuronal pathways being relayed in a different format.
Maybe, but do you know when you're thinking about this shared consciousness and for example, the reincarnation stuff?
Yeah. That's
Like,
what I did think that
if you
because
are
it was kind of psychic how he like knew the song.
knew the song, just like had it in his head
Like he
and
knew
needed
like
to get it
what he
down.
was going to do and he had like he's like listening to it in the future to write it
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he had to work out how to make that,
So I just
which
think
is
that
bizarre.
was amazing. So that was the first one that I sort of looked into, and I was just like, that's so interesting. But I was initially a bit like, oh, so he didn't just suddenly automatically know how to play piano, because that's what I initially thought it was talking about. No, but it was like, but still amazing, you know, that suddenly it started this passion off for him. But then this other man, a British guy called David Ditchfield,
Hmm.
who in 2006, oh, this is awful actually, his coat got caught in like the train door
Oh
and
no.
it set
Oh
off
no.
from the station
Oh
when his
no.
friend had already got on the train as well. So she was like looking at him from the inside and he was on the outside, and she was like looking at him like his arm being caught, and then it set off. So he basically got like dragged on the platform, and then dragged under the train, then was sort of like ended up on the tracks underneath the train. So he'd
Oh
fallen onto the
no.
tracks.
Yeah.
And he remembers being conscious and thinking, well, this is probably, I'm going to die now because I'll just get whacked on the head and or whatever, or
Yeah.
get dragged along some more. Then the train passed him, and he remembers seeing like the sky and still being like conscious at this point, and then kind of realizing, oh, I'm in a bit of pain, and then looking down at his arm, and basically his whole arm had been like ripped open, and he was like, I could see the bone, I could see the sinew, I
Oh.
could see everything.
Oh no,
Yeah,
no, no.
so then obviously he was losing all his blood, and he didn't actually go into like the sort of unconscious state until like, after the paramedics had arrived. But during that, I mean, he had a mega, I mean, like mega like near death experience. So basically, he encountered beings of light, and he describes it as a really serene, dark space. So there was like orbs of color pulsating, and he just remembers not resisting that. He didn't try and come back. He was lying naked and fully healed
Oh.
on this like stone with like
Oh.
satin underneath him, looking into this light above him, and he was like thinking this light was like healing him. And then he felt the presence of someone near him, which was like a sentient being. It wasn't someone he knew or recognized, although he did say like, who are you? I feel like I know you. And then he says, oh, they had like an androgynous sort of look,
Mm.
but he knew that he could trust the person. And then someone else arrived. But then he does say, so there was 2 feet, and this is direct quotes from, there's a page on BBC that you can watch a thing about him. This is where I got this from, because they made a film about it. He does then say, oh, it was 2 female forms, even though he'd previously
All
just
right.
said that it was androgynous. So I thought, oh, that's an
That's weird.
inconsistency. So anyway, so then he remembers looking over the side of the rock and seeing like a waterfall of stars. And it was like he was looking into galaxies. And then he came face to face with a tunnel of energy with like white flames. And he was like, it's just really profound. And he felt that it was God, but not the Christian God that he was
Yeah, like a divine
seeing.
being.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
So
that's what
then
most people had said. Yeah.
it was then that he was like, he came straight back into his body then. Because he looked over the side because he'd been curious about, oh, actually,
What is?
my family were like really
Oh.
distraught. I wonder how they're getting on because, like, I'm dead now, right? So I wonder how they are. So he'd been sort of that thought had pulled him back, and that's when he'd seen the waterfall of stars, and that's when he snapped back into his body. And he says that his experience was ultra real, which is something that Dr. Jeffrey Long touched upon in his research, was how do you, the validity of this, and like something like 70 something percent of the
Participants.
participants in
Or
that
patients.
study had reported feeling like this hyper awareness, like more than average awareness of what was going on. And he kind of corroborates this as well. And then he said that after that, his family recognized this absolute change in him because he'd been in a bit of a like not a great place before that accident. He'd started drinking quite heavily because he didn't really feel like he had any direction. But following his kind of recovery, his whole way of being shifted, and his parents described him as glowing. And his sister said, no, I can see it because you're peaceful now. And then he unexpectedly discovered that he had extraordinary artistic and musical talents that he'd never before possessed. So he started doing paintings and he started writing classical music, all based on his experience.
Wow.
Just found this absolute purpose. And he said what I thought was interesting. He said that he wasn't pushing for his art and music to happen. He just let it evolve. And that's when the sort of like people and opportunities came into his life that made that possible for him to do those things. So I just thought, oh my goodness.
That is beautiful for him.
I thought, oh, that's a really good outcome, isn't it? So now he's done all this lovely music.
But there is so much good outcomes like from these near-death experiences when people actually do. It's so reassuring, isn't it?
And then I found another one whose art I really, really liked actually. And I couldn't, because when I was actually Googling like art showing near-death experiences, it didn't come up with loads. I was trying to look at like famous examples, and I came across a lot of examples of some of the websites didn't even work anymore for these artists, like, but I did come across one really very poorly produced video on YouTube
Well, this is the book you need to write then.
of this woman called Darlene Jaman, who was drowning when she had her near-death experience. She'd gone scuba diving, and she said she saw bubbles of light all around her, and she thought, "Oh, I'm being carried away by bubbles." But then she realized she was a bubble, and then she started in this bubble. And she saw this kaleidoscope of colors, and then she heard music.
Yeah.
Well,
What music?
I'd not. I don't know. She didn't say, but I'd not heard that.
It was Chopin.
Speak about music before, but I just thought that's interesting that she had music in hers. I'd love to hear some music in a near-death experience. That'd be great. So, she was like, "Oh, it was just gorgeous, love," and I was just going with it. But then she said she took a long time to recover from that. It caused not straight away lovely changes. She had an absolute massive spiritual. She describes it as a spiritual breakdown, because it challenged things that she'd, I guess, previously believed.
Like, how was she before?
And
Like,
she
was she
ended
very
up, she's
factual or-
American. I don't know, it was only a real 4-minute video, so she didn't go too much into it. But she ended up going to Findhorn in Scotland, to the retreat
Oh, the
place.
community, yeah.
And she said it took her 7 years to get back to like a place where she felt she could continue her art and things. So, and her art's really
So it
beautiful,
was like
actually.
detrimental experience.
No, I guess not detrimental, because she started painting it, but I think she's just described it as a spiritual breakdown. So I don't know. We can read more into that. if you
She
want
must
to.
have like not been spiritual before then, and it like
Yeah, maybe.
challenged her preconceptions.
Hmm.
That's interesting, isn't it?
I guess it's a massive traumatic event anyway, as well, isn't it? So, but yeah, I just thought that was really, really fascinating. Like you were talking about the effects it has on people's lives and how it's shifting to this more like empathetic, really open sort of shift in like not being materialistic and not fearing death either. So yeah, I was sort of thinking about this this element of people then not fearing death. And like you were saying about, you know, the more you've read about it and things, it kind of feels quite comforting. And it kind of links to something that I watched a really interesting TED talk about by this, I don't know, you might have seen this as well actually, Dr. Christopher Kerr.
No.
So
No.
his TED talk was called Dreams and Visions of the Dying, which wasn't near-death experiences as such in the way that it was when they were unconscious and it was at a point of real trauma or, you know, in that way, but end-of-life experiences. So you'll probably relate to this in your work as well, Rich. But he conducted a study of patients who were approaching death. In the days and weeks leading to the death, he noticed that they started to have really vivid dreams of their loved ones, often deceased,
Yeah.
waiting for them. He'd become a doctor, had just started out, and the nurses were like, he was like, "Oh,
Telling him loads of
I
stories.
think this woman's gonna like improve," and the nurse was like, "No, she's not. She's seen her dead mum, so she's gonna die." And he was like, "What? I missed
Yeah.
that in medical school." And she was like, "Well, you've got a lot to learn." So he then this sparked off this real interesting road for him in kind of studying this, and he found that, you know, there was like common themes of dreams that happened before you die. So most dreamt of deceased loved ones.
Yeah.
The second most common was sort of like this sense of something preparing them to go in their dream. And the other kind of two, which were not as common, but were just kind of dreaming of the people that were living and other meaningful experiences that had happened in their life. He noted that most of the dreams left the person feeling really, really positive and like with this sense of like, okay, I'm good, I'm ready.
Yeah,
Or,
like,
like
wrapping
providing,
it up.
yeah, or providing like closure for stuff that had happened in their past. Like one woman had dreamt of like this like friendship that she'd had that had gone sour, and the friend had like they'd been estranged and the friend had passed away. But in a dream, she saw this friend who'd said, "I'm
It's okay.
really sorry. Like what happened with us? You were actually a really good person, and just want you to know if you need some help in this bit, I'm here." Isn't that interesting? And then there was some people did have quite distressing dreams. They were like maybe reliving past traumatic experiences. Like there was one older man who kept dreaming of a particular moment in the war when he was like losing a load of his kind of soldier colleagues, and he was just replaying this moment. But then when in the like 3 days before his actual death, it shifted the dream, and he dreamt then that they were just there, and they were saying,
Oh,
"Time for us to come get you now." And then 3 days later, he
so
died. So, but he felt peace after
well,
that.
it's lovely. It's lovely, but it's like
Yeah,
emotion, isn't
it
it?
is. And then he had a really lovely quote actually that I will read word for word in this TED
Yeah.
talk. We can link all of this, of course, on the website. But it's interesting because he said most reported that the dreams helped them not to fear death. So I thought that was really interesting, going back to our points of all these near-death experiences, the resulting of that, whether it was just an end of life kind of experience with dreams or an actual really significant experience. There is this resounding like, oh, actually, we don't need to fear this.
Yeah, it's just a different way of being.
One
It's
of the
better.
ladies that you actually watch the video, he shows a clip of this lady talking about her dream, actually, Mary, she's called. And he said, and this is his quote, Mary had physical wounds that could not be cured, yet her spiritual wounds were tended to. And I thought that's that's a really good like way of summing it up. It's like, yeah, your physical
Meaningful,
body,
isn't it?
it can't be cured,
Meaningful.
but your spiritual wounds.
But that the most important thing is, your inner being, isn't it? Really.
So that was all my stuff really, but this has been quite a deep one,
So
hasn't it? Really,
nice.
we've not had like a mega laugh, but obviously not.
No, but
this
do you
is,
know what I found really fascinating is in the last like 10 years, particularly probably about 5 years, like there's been so much research in like scientific, because I was thinking so much about consciousness and where is consciousness, and there was loads of like quantum research and something called panpsychism. Did you come across that?
No.
That the mind is not solely confined to the head or the mind. It's often called extended mind. And a guy called Lorenzo Stefanelli of he's one university in Florence in 2022. He wrote a paper I read, which was actually really, I'm obviously not into physics.
It's hard.
But I read the paper.
Well done.
Neuroscientific and quantum computing approach to redefining the extended mind theory.
Whoa.
And he was talking in his abstract. Now, I'm just going to pick this sentence out because I thought it was just amazing that people are even studying this as a thing, but how quantum computing can solve the problems linked with the extension of the cognitive processes beyond the brain boundaries. What it means is like just extrasensory abilities beyond our normal physical brain experience, And lots of them lots of these quantum and extended mind theories are suggesting that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of the universe, similar to like gravity or electromagnetism. Like it's a force. It's a thing. Do you know that consciousness is like
an actual thing, like wind,
like that? Like we understand that
or like
everything's
an
made of
element.
atoms presently.
But
Yeah,
consciousness is there as a.
there's so much that we don't understand about the universe, like dark matter. We don't know about that. We don't know what it is.
Yeah.
We don't know what is outside. The universe is expanding now, isn't it?
And, like,
really rapidly, faster
black
than the speed of light.
holes.
Was that ironic? Like we don't know what it's expanding into. There's so much we don't know.
Yeah, so of course there's going
And
to be.
so how could we even limit ourselves? And obviously, what is limiting us? Our brain.
Yeah.
We can't even conceive of some of the ideas about it because of our brains. We're limited by the brain filter.
But it's interesting how
experience.
this is one of the other thoughts that I didn't have much chance to like kind of research into, but that over the thousands of years of history, this has all sort of like been a shared experience for so many people actually, and how that all kind of comes together and it kind of shapes our understanding of the afterlife or the veil, and how this has shown up in the construction of our belief systems globally, like different religions, and how often the religions also share kind of similar themes about afterlives and things and journeys. And I just thought, wow.
Yeah, it's like it was so clear to me reading it all that there is definitely and absolutely more, and that we're all connected, and that's beautiful.
Oh, that really is
And I think like
beautiful.
the use of psychedelic drugs, they've been doing that with people that are dying, and it removes their fear of dying. And I was thinking even of like Ram Dass, previously Richard Alpert, Dr. Richard Alpert. He was obviously a psychologist in the US. Is very famous for a spiritual movement in the 70s.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was very skeptical. He took psilocybin and it removed all of his roles. He had this great vision. It's well popularized. It's
It
obviously
removed
very
all of his what?
interesting.
Sorry.
His perception of his roles. He like
Oh, right.
describes
Okay.
how when he took the drug, like he could see himself being stripped back to then nothing. And he was like,
Yeah,
who
and
am
that's
I?
what some of the
Aha.
near-death experiences reported, that stripping away their trauma, stripping
Yeah.
away guilt, stripping away shame, and like
Oh
those
no, he was
layers
saying
being
like,
removed.
I'm a university professor, I'm a blah 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 blah,
Oh,
I'm a
right.
son,
Okay.
I'm a da-"
Like
all those
actual
roles
roles.
of actual
Okay.
roles of his life were being peeled off and he was just then him. But then he wasn't him anymore, he was just the one thing. And
Mm.
then he just disappeared, merged with the
Emerged.
oneness. And then obviously that changed him forever after that experience. He did not continue being a Harvard professor anymore. He
Mm.
left and went to India and had the woman that went to Vinehorn. Well, he just went and, had to find out more about this. He was changed
Yeah, that's
forever.
really interesting. Well,
Not that we're advocating drug use, obviously, but it is
well.
very interesting. No, no,
Oh,
there can be very bad trips, but
mm.
yeah, wow, what a fascinating.
It does
I
make
don't
me
know
think of
how
like,
this is going to make me creative, but I think it is going to make me want to look at transcendental meditation. That is for sure.
oh,
Yeah.
and the brain's untapped potential.
Well, because a lot of it is about shutting down the brain activity. So the quieter your brain gets, the more you perceive beyond yourself.
Mm.
That is the main core of it, isn't there? So if we can practice that through
Whoa,
meditation, that will give us more creativity because
that
we
is
access
deep.
parts of ourselves that we
Brain is
can't
hurting.
currently access. Well, you need to quiet your mind.
I feel like this is like mega.
It is mega
It's like full on, like
tripped out.
our existence, our very existence. Whoa.
Is better than this. Thank flipping the divine energy source.
Well, I don't know how it's going to inspire me, but I definitely have got a lot to think about.
Well, I think
I
the
think it'll just come.
meditation
And like these people with the near-death experiences,
is the thing to do.
don't think about it. Just let it come to you. Maybe I'll write a symphony
Exactly.
or paint a masterpiece.
But also, I think, does it not shift your perception that, like, I was just thinking it's mind blowing, isn't it? Then you're going through life and you're thinking, gosh, just be kind to people because, like, you're going to have a life review at some point, and like the people that have died are waiting for you. So, number one, don't talk crap about them. Also, maybe like start being more accountable and nice now. I think lots of what was interesting was the doctors and nurses involved in those studies. They're
Hmm.
now looking about how people speak around unconscious people because obviously they're reporting loads of bad practice when people were unconscious that they and then remembered and fed back.
Mm.
And it's like, oh
When I was
gosh,
having my out-of-body experience, I saw this really inappropriate thing take place.
yeah. The doctor
I
was
need
like,
to make a
"Shitting
complaint.
hell, I didn't study this." That's basically what people have said. It's like they knew that the person didn't know what they were doing, or because obviously when someone's coded or whatever, there is panic. It's
Yeah,
not,
yeah, of course.
and you don't think they're listening or seeing you.
Mm.
But obviously
But they do say
that's
like
now being considered in training, which is
someone's
bizarre.
hearing is the last thing to go, isn't it? When you die. So you should always be saying nice things.
Well, I don't know where you've got that from.
The first aid training course that I was on a couple of weeks
All
ago.
right. Sorry, I didn't know you'd studied near-death experience first aid training.
No, I was doing CPR on the dummy. And you
All
have to keep
right.
talking to it because they can hear you.
In case they can hit you.
Obviously,
It's all right, Bob.
it's all right, Gerald.
Right.
Well, I think we'll have to leave it there because I think this is going to blow people.
It's blown my mind. It's blown my mind in a good way. I'm going to ruminate on this.
Me too.
So yeah, we'll pop all the sources on the website and
Yep.
try and recover from this. And
And See what
And we'll
happens.
see you next month when we'll be in India on some kind of
off
meeting.
Findon, having a retreat.
On Findon.
Ooh.
Spiritually connecting with ourselves. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I hope
well.
you enjoyed that.
Oh God, golly.
Take what you will from that.
Yeah, and have a lovely
Um,
time.
Have a lovely time. And we'll
Okay.
catch up in the next one.
Yeah. All right. See you later, everyone. Then.
Bye.
Bye.